Good morning. We are in Broadstairs. We're supposed to be in Margate, but we've changed our plans ever so slightly. We were going to walk from Margate to Broadstairs, but as we parked at the station for logistics reasons. And there was a train coming in, so we thought, right, we'll jump on the train. So we are in Broadstairs. So we've come down those stairs, we've walked along the beach. And as I say, we're going to head into Margate. I say head in as though it's going to be easy. It's 7 miles walking around the coast. I thought that looks quite an interesting walk, so I got it all planned and we've ruined it, so I know everything in reverse now. So this could be a train wreck. But we'll see. So this is another childhood memory. This is another one of those, I haven't been here for, let's say 30 years. It's probably longer. And this hasn't changed. Very similar to Cromer. It's a good old seaside town. Kent gets a bum rap. There's a lot of news stories about Kent and things that are going on in Kent, like there are in a lot of places, but this part of Kent, known as Thanet, is still very traditional and very pretty if you ignore the JCBs on the beach. So we're going to head off, we're going to head around the coast. I don't think there's anything particularly in between Broadstairs and Margate, so we'll see how it goes. I just wanted to see how Margate had changed. Again, I haven't been to Margate since, I dread to think, 89, 90. So it'll be interesting to see. I've had a lot of stories about the money that's been spent on Margate, so it's going to be really fascinating to see just how, let's say, it's improved, how different it's going to be. So we started to head away from Broadstairs and the seafront, and I'm pointing there to Bleak House, which is where Charles Dickens lived in the 1850s and 60s. It's rumoured that he finished David Copperfield there, but he also wrote several other pieces at the same time. We're about a mile outside Broadstairs. We've climbed and climbed and climbed and climbed. Feels like we're at the top of a mountain. I bet we're about 20 feet up. But boy oh boy, in this heat, it's about 9:30. Incredibly warm. Shouldn't moan, but I am. I shall try and be careful because there's a man there without a shirt on. But we are at the North Foreland Lighthouse, which seems to be a running theme now. We've got Southwold Lighthouse, which I thought was interesting because it was an interior, inland lighthouse, and then we went to Cromer, which has got an inland lighthouse, and now Broadstairs really does. I mean, you can get a feel for just how little of the sea you can see. So again, shirtless man has just disappeared, so I'll try and show you a bit more. It looks as though it's a holiday home now, either that or he lives there, but I'm guessing they are just about to leave from a week's holiday. And you can see the sea, but very much an inland lighthouse. And again, I don't think you've got much coastal erosion here. It's very chalky, the coast, but not much coastal erosion. So I'm assuming it's purely and simply because from up there, they can see you out there. So 2.5 miles in, we're at Joss Bay. We thought we could go down on the beach and start walking around the base of the cliff, but we thought wrong. There is definitely, I don't know what you call it, like a walkway, a big broad concrete walkway at the base of the cliff, but it's almost impossible to get there. So the bay looks lovely, but we are on this path, which is signed as the coastal path, and we'll see when we can turn right and get down on the beach. So strangely, at the start of the video I said something like, I don't think there's much in between Broadstairs and Margate, Which is a silly thing to say because it's exactly the reason that I wanted to do this walk. And the first bay you come to is Kingsgate Bay, and I wanted to fly my drone out because I knew that there were these sea stacks or archways within the chalk cliffs. And I was a little bit nervous about flying the drone because we're really close to Manston Airport, which was a really important World War II airfield, very, very close to Broadstairs and Ramsgate. But I didn't get any warnings on my controller, so I sort of kept it below 100 metres and just flew out over the beach. And I was amazed by how, and I'll say this again later on, just how clear the water is. I've got this horrible idea that the English Channel's a bit murky and a bit dirty, and the Kent coast isn't somewhere that you would go to swim. And then I think I mentioned this in a moment. This is Neptune's Tower, and it sits atop that cliff that we were just looking at. I can't find anything online. Apparently it was built by a lord in the 1800s. He wanted something that looked similar to similar forts that were built much, much earlier further down the coast. And then we have this gem, very, very difficult to see from inland. So again, the drone was really valuable. You can see the lighthouse there in the background, and you can see just how inland it was. Anyway, Kingsgate Castle, built by Lord Holland in the 1760s. It was his second home. He had Holland House in Kensington, and then he built this as his kind of seaside retreat. We're about 4 miles in, so halfway between Broadstairs and Margate. And we've just reached Neptune's Tower, which you can't really get to. So I'll stick a couple of bits in about that. But I really wanted to see this. I don't think this has got a name other than it's a cutting. As I was saying, we've got chalk cliffs, so probably relatively soft. And I just really wanted to come down here. There's nowhere to go. We can't get anywhere. We've got to go back up, which isn't our favourite word at the moment. But it felt like something we had to come and have a look at, even if we don't go much further. So I'll see if I can find something about it. There's obviously a cutting there, and then this goes straight down to the sea. I'm saying I don't want to go any further. I've got to go and have a look now. I think there might be a payoff. I'm hoping there's a payoff at the bottom here. Is this going to be worth it? Not really, no. So we've got the cliff going off towards Margate. That's where we've been. And I thought that might be a little archway, but it isn't. Maybe there's one just round the corner, but I'm not going any further. We are 4 miles in. I believe this is called Botany Bay. I'm only checking on it. We obviously haven't gone down on the beach because we're running a little bit behind schedule. We thought this would take about 3 hours. We're way behind, but we've been stopping and going, ooh, look at that, ooh. We have just stopped at some toilets. So, over there's the Botany Bay Hotel, and the toilets are signed as Botany Bay, but they're not in the hotel. There's a little block, if I'm pointing in the right place, there's a little block over there. Lovely little set of toilets. If you're doing the walk and you suddenly find that you're old, there's a sea stack there which I was going to try and walk down, but there's so many people on the beach because we're much later than we thought we would be. So we haven't gone down on the beach, but that's one for the future. So we've got about 3 miles to get to Margate. See what else we can find. Take a nice picture of the wastewater station. I didn't really pay attention to who runs that water treatment facility, and I don't really care, to be honest. It's just the impression you get that there is this water treatment facility on top of the cliff, and you walk down this little walkway and you expect the water to be filled with sewage, which is a terrible indictment of the water industry, but we hear the news stories all the time. But the water was incredible. It was crystal clear. There's no sign of any pipes. I don't know what the facility does. I don't know where the water is expelled to. But once again, I was amazed by just how crystal clear this water was. Time check. It's not a time check, distance check. 4.5 miles in. 4.5 miles must mean we've got about 2.5 miles to go, and we are at what I believe is called Palm Bay, and we are down at the front. So the coastal path is up there and continues to be, which is nice and paved and flat and easy to walk on. But I noticed on Google that we've got this, and I think it goes all the way now, although it appears to run out somewhere over there, which is a bit of a pain. But we thought it might be a bit cooler, a bit breezier. It's ever so warm, and it's absolutely stunning. So I do a fair amount of research, especially on Google Maps, before I go anywhere these days, and I really thought that you could walk on this kind of concrete promenade all the way into Margate, but clearly not. Every now and again it would end and there would be a little path up back to the coastal path, and then you could come back down again, which was a bit frustrating. I assume it's built to protect the chalk cliffs. We're in, I believe, Cliftonville, which is pretty much the outskirts of Margate. Lovely big path that we're walking along. The walkway that I thought went all the way into Margate did not, and we decided that we would come back up here rather than walk along the beach, which we're all feeling a bit tired. It's ever so warm, so walking along the beach seemed like a struggle too far. But they've got a huge green, but they've got a fairground at the moment. But it looks like we can head down there, and that will take us all the way into Margate. With any luck, with some shade, and possibly with a breeze. I'm amazed how much shipping there is. I don't know why. It's the English Channel leading up to the coast of Holland. But there are a lot of ships out there, and a lot of people and dogs in the water, which is lovely. So this was Walpole Tidal Pool. I don't think you can really call it a Lido or a Lido. It's a tidal pool, and you might be forgiven for saying, well, I can't see anything. It's enormous, and I kind of turned up with a preconception that we wouldn't see anybody in there. I knew that the second Lido is a bit of a wreck, but I just assumed that we wouldn't see anybody in there, and it was incredibly popular. There were people swimming, there were people diving. It was really well used. And talking of wrecks, this is the much more famous and much more dilapidated Margate Lido. This was once the place to be seen, and clearly now it isn't. There were signs up saying you couldn't get through. People have ripped holes in the fence so you could get through. It's such a shame. This is a picture, I think, off of the BBC website, looking at just how wonderful it once was. And here you get a much better idea of the size and the scale of this place. I mean, it's entirely run down. It's just home for pigeons now. And don't get me wrong, I like graffiti, but you can't help but romanticise about this and just think, if it just had some money spent on it and returned to its former glories, people would flock to it. Wild swimming is so popular and so good for you. Surely we could afford a few pennies to recover it to its former glories. And as I said, I'm a big fan of graffiti, especially when it's Waldorf and Statler. So I started out intending to make a video about Margate. I wanted to see how much it had changed in the decade since I've been here. But I single-handedly failed for any number of reasons. Number one, and forgive me, Margate people, it really wasn't very nice. Number two, anybody who's seen my videos knows that I don't like busy places, and it was rammed. And number three, by the time we got there, we were all hot, bothered and tired, and we just wanted to go home. Now then, this might be the end of the walk, because Margate is incredibly busy, and I can feel a bout of shyness coming on. So if this is certainly the end of the video, if not the walk, because my car's about half a mile away. Sorry, extreme close-up. It's been a lovely walk. Kind of wish we had stuck to going Margate to Broadstairs rather than Broadstairs to Margate, because it's really busy now. It's almost midday. It's going to be busy. It's August and it's beautiful. I can tell you the tide has gone out. It's a bit whiffy. I'm guessing it's all of this rather than Margate itself, but it's a bit whiffy. Very unpleasant. There's the Anthony Gormley. I think I've possibly just shown you that. That is the site of the old pier. I've been going to Margate since the early 80s, and I didn't know there was a pier. And when I was reading up about it, there was a huge storm, I think in January 78, and the pier was pretty much destroyed to the point where they had to rescue the RLNI chaps from the pier by helicopter, and they tore it down as a result. It was never rebuilt. So all we've got is this kind of jetty, harbour wall, if you want to call it that, and then the beach. So I'll try and get some pictures of the beach. There's another Lido, so that'll be 3 Lidos. And then we've got what I call Bembon Brothers, I think it's now called Dreamland. Whether we'll get any pictures of that, I do not know. And that's it for Margate, which is a real shame, because I came with an intention of looking around Margate and really understanding how it has changed in the time, but by this point it was too late, it was too hot, we were too tired, it was incredibly busy, and we were all a bit uncomfortable, so we headed for the car, whopped up the air conditioning and headed home. My next video will be from Scotland, where I'm hoping it'll be cooler, possibly even raining if I can remember what that is. So thank you for watching, always appreciate it, and I will see you soon.